In this video we are making a Japanese style garden for the red-crowned crane. Sit back with a cup of tea, relax and enjoy. Welcome back to another Community Zoo episode. In the last episode we built a small clawed otter and gibbon habitat as start of our Asian section. And today we're continuing the theme because you guys suggested that we add the red-crowned crane next. Thanks to Quinton for the suggestion, your name is added to the contributors board. Don't forget to let me know in the comments what animal you would like to see next. Next time I want to do two things in one. I also want to build something for the guests, maybe like a food court or a new section via monorail. You decide. Anyways, let's get right into today's video. I've already outlined where I want to build this new habitat. Since we're focusing on a red-crowned crane, I figured placing it next to the otters and gibbon habitat would work best. I wanted to give this habitat a garden-like feel, and then the idea of creating a Japanese-style garden came to me. Obviously, we need to make it accessible for the guests to walk through, which was a bit of a challenge in terms of figuring out what to build first. So, I started by constructing the habitat barrier and placing both guest entrances. This helped me decide where to shape the terrain. Since it's a Japanese garden, I wanted to incorporate some elevation. I also wanted small rivers to crisscross the area, which made it tricky to plan out where to build the rivers and hills. Once I had a rough idea of the layout, I thought it'd be smart to add some paths before the terrain became too complicated. You know how finicky the pathing system is. I created a small bridge for the guests to walk over, connecting it to the other entrance. It's a bit of an underwhelming path, only one way across, but that's fine for now. With the pathing done, outlining where the rivers would go and bringing in some elevation was my next focus. The water in Planet Zoo is a bit tricky since there's no flowing stream, so I had to create separate sections of water at different levels. While placing the water, I smoothed out the terrain, and when I was happy with the layout, I started painting the ground. I always cover the ground with soil as a base layer, which works well for me. I expanded the water area a little bit more at the end. I didn't connect the underwater viewing area, but I thought it looked nice regardless. Next, I imported 3 pre-built structures I'd made off camera. I'm sorry if you wanted to see the process of this. It was very time consuming, so I skipped it in this already lengthy video. These included a shelter for the cranes and an entry section for the East Asia part of the map, which guests can walk through. I also created a small cover section for the path. If you're interested in these blueprints, I've uploaded them to the Steam workshop and you can find them in the description. The East Asia pack includes small bridges that fit perfectly in this Japanese style garden, so I placed 3 around the habitat. While guests can't use them, the red cranes actually can, which is fun to watch. With that done, the base of the habitat was complete. I then added some minor details like benches and bins on the path. For the crane pathway, I just painted them with sand, which contrasts nicely with the soil and helps guide where to place the trees and foliage. Once the path was done, I had a good outline for the entire habitat and moved on to the trees. I focused on placing the trees in areas where the cranes are less likely to roam, such as the back of the habitat and uphill sections. I wanted to create a dense forest-like feel in some places while leaving other parts more open. I honestly didn't spend much time on details because the habitat is so large, and I wanted to keep the video under 20 minutes. The trees do a lot of the visual work, so I tried to vary the colors, adding green, red, and even cherry blossoms, though I eventually removed the cherry blossoms as I wasn't happy with how they looked. Next, I added bushes around the trees to prevent the area from feeling too empty. This not only makes the habitat look much better, but it also helps with performance by keeping the level of detail manageable. I then placed some smaller foliage like ferns, which give the area an Asian feel. And this took quite a while, so I'm just going to speed up the process. The rocks were the next big addition, especially around the edges of the rivers. I think rocks are crucial for making water edges look more natural, and they help blend in the terrain into the water. I used the tropical rocks because they blend in well with the Temper Maps soil. After the rocks, I added the grasses. I then placed the reeds near the water, as I think they add so much realism and texture. I love using reeds. They really bring the water areas to life. And finally, I added some smaller details like faux rocks to blend the stones and dirt edges together. I could have gone more detailed with the overall environment, but I kept it simple and placing the rocks where it felt natural. I then did a quick walkthrough of the habitat to check for any visual issues, such as trees in the wrong place or floating stones. And here is where I removed one of the cherry blossom trees. It just blocked the view of the little house and it just wasn't worth it. Now it's time for the main star, the red-crowned cranes. The red-crowned cranes. That is a difficult name to pronounce, but these birds are quite large, and I knew from the start that they could potentially escape from many areas, since I hadn't built any barriers yet. My approach was to focus on creating a natural environment first, and then address the barriers afterwards. I added some cranes, and it was fun to watch them explore the habitat. And I was really impressed to see that they could actually walk up into the little house that I built for them. The cranes need a balance of short grasses and other textures, so I went back and adjusted the terrain texture slightly to better fit their needs. I didn't go all out with their enrichments at this stage. I just added a scavenging pool, which is always fun to watch them interact with. Next, I needed to ensure that they couldn't escape, so I started working on the barrier. I began near the front end, close to the entrance of the Asia section. I decided to create a cave-like structure for the cranes to lay under, as well as using glass for guests to see the cranes from the outside in. The cranes can rest and hang out in this covered area, which adds a unique viewing experience for the guests. I contemplated building a custom fence, but the path between the otter habitat and the red crane is actually quite small. So I chose to keep things straightforward and went with a hedge. Now the hedge is not the most beautiful or creative barrier, but for the time I had, it was a practical solution. I constantly double checked to make sure the cranes couldn't escape, and once I was satisfied, I moved on to the next challenge, the back wall. At the back of the habitat, I created a bit of a cliff that had no real purpose. To make it look less harsh, I filled it with rocks. It's just a temporary solution for now. I might come back to it later and add more details when I expand or when I connect this to another habitat. But for now, the rocks softened the cliff and make it look more intentional. On the opposite side of the habitat, I decided not to use the hedge. Instead, I went with bamboo, which adds an interesting visual element. The bamboo is quite tall and blocks a lot of the sunlight, so I was careful not to overuse it. While the base of the bamboo looked a little bare, it was an easy fix. I just added a variety of bushes, and then ferns, and then some grasses to tie it all together. Once I was done, the cranes couldn't escape anymore from this side either. There was just one small spot where they could potentially climb over the stone rim, so I placed a boat there as a creative barrier, and with that final touch, the entire habitat was now secure and I didn't have to worry anymore about escapes. And with that, the habitat is also done. Overall, it was a bit of a chaotic process, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. The habitat is large, but it feels like it provides an authentic Japanese garden experience for both the cranes and the guests. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any suggestions for what animal to add next, feel free to leave them in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, I'm also planning on working on something different for the guests soon. So next episode will be a combination of both guests and animal content. So if you have any ideas for the guest area as well, let me know in the comments. I can't wait to hear your idea. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the comments. See ya!